and disco. A beautiful thing. Internet go wonky last night a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was playing COH when it happened, so it made that a lot more fun for me.
I'm going to try to get some COH in tonight. I haven't been on for almost a week. No, it's been a week.
I've been on every night because now Luke's obsessed with COH. I got Sean on finally.
What was the issue?
He don't know what the hell he's doing.
Well, yeah, but more so.
Something happened after the first time he got on, so he re-downloaded everything. Well, he didn't get score. He didn't get the file score.
Yeah.
Also, his icon wasn't set up right, so I had to email him the file and the icon, correct setup icon. Well, then I had the next major hurdle was trying to actually get that file to him because no email would deliver it. It was driving me nuts.
Yeah,
I hate when emails decide that they think they can screw them. You know. So anyway, I finally figured out. Then I had to explain to him how to unzip it. You know, that kind of stuff. But it was successful.
No good.
Sucker, he's back in. He's in with a plan. I know you're seeing this huge list. We're not covering all these because you can see some of these have multiple releases. We're just going to cover like the main ones. I'm just going to cover like combat. I'm not going to go down to like air-sea battle or, you know, we're going to go down the list. I'm going to pick a few. We'll just chat about them. Wait, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You got a lot on your game this week? Your games? You are your main event of the evening.
No, what are you for the main event? Because you weren't.
No. You should. Trust me, people give a crap, way more of a crap. I don't have that much. It's Super Breakout, dude. You know, so you are the main event. Plus, you haven't been a main event for a while, so it'll be good for you. No pressure.
I mean, there's not a whole lot.
Oh yeah.
About the game, I'm going to talk about the impact the pack-in had.
You know, I have those games, but I don't know where the life of me where I put them. So.
You mean that actual pack-in?
Well, I mean, I've got Virtua Fighter 2. I've got Virtua Fighter Remix there as well. I've also got Daytona. I mean, I've got your old discs. You know.
Well, I got a funny story about that too.
We'll end the show with mail time. All right. We'll do mail time again. It's just a brief little thing. So give this fellow his dizoo. I'll let you read his note. It doesn't take long.
I'll let you read it.
Well, it's only about 10 words. All right. Anybody in the chat?
Yeah. We got free lunch.
Free lunch. Remember that song?
Socks.
Take it easy. Sorry.
Socks McCoy. We got Nax ZR.
All right.
That's not a name I'm familiar with. Hello, Mr. Knack.
He pronounces it Zer.
Now he's mysteriously back as Duncan Styles.
Ah, I've heard of him. Hey, we are monkeyed with our volume settings, so we would appreciate a sound check from the mob.
We got Sindri.
I gotta get our green screen back down here. Still at Mom's house. I'm presumably she did the sew job on it. I'll check in with her later tonight. I miss being a monkey with it.
I don't know how you miss being a monkey. You're right already there.
Clearly, I'm in a much better mood today than you are.
I'm in a fine mood.
You don't sound fine.
I'm not. No, I didn't say I was fine. I said I was in
Also,
a
you
fine
gave me
mood.
the bad look when I sang my free lunch song. Free lunch. No. This was a nice, easy batch of games after the week I had on the other shows. It's like, this week we want you to play 47 ultra mega real-time Doom games. It's like, oh, I was just getting killed trying to figure out what the hell I was doing. I was getting it was difficult week for old A.
All my games, at least, are fun. They're not all good, but they're all fun.
Well, they're based on awesome games, so you got that going for you. Anybody say anything about our sound in there?
No. Oh, yes. Free Lunch says it sounds good to me.
All right. I turned up the gain, yo. I monkeyed with stuff. Bo told me that every time he jacks up the volume of these shows, he's like, I put it up there like at 6, up to 6. And I'm like, man, I've got to do that in post. It's a pain in the butt. I was like, and also, you sometimes are too loud. I'm too soft. So I think I've got everything finally tuned. By God, we will get this audio situation down if it kills you.
No, it won't.
Yes, we will.
No.
Yes, this is it. This is the magic bullet.
Just like on the other show. Hey, Graham.
Graham W. I got to get our review section ready to go here.
His review was quite fair, I felt.
Graham's reviews are always spot on. He knows what he's talking about. Let's see here.
At least for my games.
What's Boat want? Hey. Boat said we had a good month. He just told me, so that's good. That's good news. Always good news.
I like month.
I like month too.
Hey, Necronom. You're usually far too quiet, but today is much better.
Yes.
Hey, see?
Yes. I told you. It's all about monkeying. Part as of course.
Graham enjoys your shirt.
Thank you. Remember Hillbilly Jim, the way he used to pose? That's my Hillbilly Jim pose. Thank you, Graham. You're obviously a man with finer taste. Let's see what we got here. All right.
Steve making an appearance today as well.
Steve, is that which Steve is we talking about? Oh yes, Steve. We're gonna be getting to you later. Ha ha! That's my evil laugh.
It's not very good.
Well, I'm not that evil. That's the problem.
Maybe if you had like a puppy, you could punch it while you were laughing.
I love puppies. I can never do it.
I'll see. You're right. You're not very evil.
You know, Lukey played in the baseball championship of the world yesterday. His team against the team of death.
Oh, they made it to the...
They made it to the final game. They beat the other team out in the league. The team of death came in to kill us. They'd skunked us in like 4 straight games.
Right.
We jumped out to we were ahead in the 3rd inning of 6. The team of death sidelines were all literally. Tree told me he heard the coach tell the guys, make sure you don't start crying. They couldn't believe it. They were dumb. They were completely flabbergasted. Now we knew this wasn't going to last.
Yeah.
They batted around a couple times and they ended up winning by like I think 8 runs. But we finished the game.
Yay!
We had a kid who one of their kids hit this monumental fly ball to the outfield, and our kid staggered under it like like Foster Brooks, stuck his glove out like this sideways, and the ball goes bloop, and we were like, yeah! It was probably the highlight of the year. Lukey scored twice, got on base 2 out of 3 times, and just got thrown out at first. It was a very close play. He was kicking. He was looking good out there last night, and we were happy to get the season over with. And then the coach says, Luke made All-Stars. I was like, 4 or 5 more practices on another game. It's like they just keep twisting the knife. So, but still, it was nice. Luke was happy. He went to play with his team. So, and then we had to come home and play COH so we could finish his big mission, which we did. He's got a character like almost 16. Yeah, with very little help for me. Although he wants me to play with him every night. You ready to take this thing to the house, to the bank? To the money bank?
Well, no, we need to give it a couple minutes. It's not even 9 yet.
Well, I thought we started this shit. Hey, what do you think about helping me out next week with Amigos?
Yeah.
That's why I went to Green Screen. Listen, we're doing 2 PD games next week. That's it. That'd be easiest pie.
Yeah, you need to get the stuff to me.
Yeah, I'll set you up. I'll set you up, yo.
Did you see the rule change for YouTube?
The rule change? No.
Yes.
What's the rule change? Is it going to affect me in any way?
Yes, it does.
Oh, yeah?
You are no longer able to stream video if you are under the age of 13 alone.
Oh, how's that affect me?
I thought Brittany and
Who's Brittany?
Or whatever that other...
I'm Britney Spears!
What's the Brooke?
Brooke. Oh, Brooke and Luke? Yeah, but I don't let them stream live. Are you kidding me?
There you go.
They can't be trusted to do anything. The other little videos I don't really release even hardly. I think I released 1.
Yeah, that. I mean, to be completely honest,
that's a good rule.
Yeah, it's a change that should have been implemented.
I didn't know. I thought the kids couldn't even. I mean, it's gonna hurt some people, but I'm sure there are some kid video makers. But I mean, listen, you don't need this. Why are we? Let's not mortgage our kids' future.
You know, one of the most famous YouTube channels is a kid reviewing toys, right?
Yeah. Well, my buddy watches this real young girl and her political commentary. She's some kind of genius, and she says all kinds of foul mouth stuff on the show. Her and her brother make it. I don't know how much older she is than 13, but maybe she's probably only like 14. So I guess she's in.
Yeah.
But I mean, this stuff, and the thing is, she's got a lot of insight. But man,
hey Pixels. Oh, I'm sure she's just parroting.
No. She writes all of her own stuff.
I'm sure she does.
Well, I mean, listen. Well, I'll tell you what, you can deliver it well for a little kid. I'll put it that way. It is it's quite a sight.
Those darn sports getting in the way of good old gaming time.
Yeah. I've got, like I said, Luke wants to play City Hears every night, and when we're out, all he plays is Pokemon Go and Chaos for the ZX Spectrum. That's all he plays. He plays that more than the new one we bought.
Yeah, that's what Pixels is talking about. He's playing Chaos. All right.
Are you ready to go, Senor Wences?
Hello.
All right.
Hey, Dryer Lint. Man, we got a full crew today.
Dryer lint, the thing that Teresa never empties in my dryer is the lint thing.
Well, maybe.
She's like, man, why didn't the dryer work? And it's like, well, there's a freaking fur coat stuck in there. That's why. Let Bigfoot go, darn. Get that thing out of there. She's like, I never do that. And every time I go in there, it's packed with lint, yo. And that stuff will kill you. So no offense to you, Dryer lint. You ready to take it ready to go? You ready? Let's get this thing cooking. I'm ready. I'm fired up for this one. All right, here we go. Assume you're...
Do we have a... Didn't you have props?
Yeah, I got them right here. I'll put them up there when the time is right. Yeah, it's too early right now. I don't have to say because I'll get them. I don't want to take up the whole show by having the whole thing sitting right there. So I got it. I got everything we need. What props you talking about?
I just saw stuff sitting over there.
I mean, I'll have to get down here and get it, but with these mics, I won't. Okay. I'll be good to go. Be good to go, yo. We'll do this last. We'll do that after the wheel. All right. You ready to rock and roll? Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a packed episode of ARG Presents. I am Amigo Aaron, joined by a man whose pack-ins included that hat and a grumpy disposition, the Brent. Oh!
Hey,
he also can't drive. Good God, what was that?
Man, I love that game.
What game?
Daytona.
Oh, I thought you were playing Night Driver or something like that.
Well, that game's okay.
Listen,
it's okay.
You're out of your mind. So, if you joined us last week, we spun the wheel. We made the deal. And by the way, last week's episode, Brent's personal favorite, Text Adventures.
Oh,
we made the deal. And this week, we're playing games that were pack-in games. Brent,
yes.
Describe your rules for this. This is another one. I think it's another one of your babies.
This just was any games that were included with a system.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't be a peripheral, had to be a system. And packing games, they change a lot over the lifespan of a console.
That's true.
And this was no exception. I believe you picked one that was a launch.
That's what I want to go with a launch pack-in.
And mine was one that was down the road to try to boost sales.
Now, included in your rules are such noteworthy pack-ins as the Amiga Bat Pack, for example. Things like that weren't necessarily coming out at launch, but were, again, like you said, to boost the popularity of the system.
Correct.
So just for fun, and again, when are we going to be this way again? I have in my hot little hands a massive list of systems and their original pack-ins and some of the extra pack-ins that came along. And we're just going to jot through a few of these here before we get going and just kind of comment on them, the games and the quality of the pack-in, because there's a few of these that when you look at them, you're like, look at this. This explains a lot. Because one thing you got to understand is, aside from the fact that these were games packed into a system, these were games that were available at launch often. And so this gives you a good idea of what was going on. So just a few of these. We're not going to go over everything ever made, but I wanted to go over a couple of these. So in these systems in alphabetical order, I just grabbed them. And I want to thank the fine folks in the Digital Press forums who compiled this massive list. I was bebopping around, and they did my research for me. God bless them. And I believe Boat was a big mover and shaker with the digital press forms back in the day. And I think also Jack Flack was another guy who was a big wheel over there. They both may still be. I don't know. So just to start the show here, because it's a personal favorite of mine, Brent. I looked to see what the Amiga CD32 launched with. Now this is the quirky Amiga computer-based console that launched way back in the day. Now they've got 2 or 3 different sets of stuff, but the one I remember distinctly was and I believe this was your launch package for the CD32. Oscar, this is a 2-game launch to Oscar and Diggers. Showing off the massive power.
the well-named, known appeal of those games.
Yeah.
How could you not buy a system?
And so, again, this is a system that tanked Royale, and that probably didn't. I'm not a huge fan of either one of those games, so that didn't surprise me. So, now, next on the docket I want to talk about here is the venerable Atari 2600. Now, this game launched 1,000 million Ataris back in the day. And we've talked this just a couple weeks ago. In fact, I almost picked it. If we hadn't just talked about it, this would have been my choice. But this was the Atari 2600 Combat.
Huge pack-in.
One of the ultimate pack-ins, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, of course, it had one downside, and that is it was only 2-player. You couldn't play. There was no single-player version.
Oh, but for the Atari, I think that's exactly what they needed. That during that period of time, that was a perfect launch title.
Now, sticking with the Atari, who remembers the Atari 7800? I don't know how.
No one.
I don't know what kind of release this got overseas, but over here, now if you'll keep in mind that the 7800 was out there to compete with the NES, basically, effectively.
Yeah, and it didn't do well.
So what was the pack in the States? It was Pole Position 2.
It's pretty good.
It's not that good. I mean,
that's at least a well-known
how
title.
old was Pole Position at the time?
Oh, gosh, that's a good point.
Now, the Europeans fared better because this is a great game. The Europeans got a different pack, and it was built into the system, Brent.
Oh,
Always
yeah.
Good.
That used to be a thing.
Yeah, and
that used to be a thing.
That was the 7800 version of Asteroids, which actually is an excellent version. Probably one of the best home versions ever made.
It is, but then again, how old was Asteroids at that point?
Asteroids has a little more legs because you can put a bunch of multiple game formats and stuff in there, so that you get a little extra. Now, one more Atari system before we move out of here. The Atari XEGS, which is the Atari consoleized computer. This was Atari's answer to the CD32, effectively. Or not? Yeah. It was really it was before that.
It didn't need an answer.
And so this thing came with a few games that pack in, but two of the ones I want to talk about were Flight Simulator and Bug Hunt. Bug Hunt being a gun game. Those
are horrible pack-ins.
They're not the best. I'm not sure I would pack a Flight Simulator as a pack-in. That's kind of tough. Now, back to another perennial favorite, the one that always. Is this the best pack-in ever? You'll let you grade it. It's the ColecoVision and Donkey Kong.
No, that's not the best pack-in ever. It's good, though. It's really good.
I'd say this, if not the best pack-in ever, is amongst the top two or three. It can't be understated the difference it's made when the ColecoVision launched.
Yeah, it did. It made
if you played Atari games at this point, which is probably all that was out there, except from Odyssey, Fairchild. And here comes Donkey Kong. This thing looks somewhat reminiscent of the arcade.
Yeah,
You're like, holy smokes, that looks like a real game. So
certainly the closest at the time.
I want to talk about going from the old to a newer system, the Dreamcast. Now, the Dreamcast shipped it's funny, a lot of Dreamcasts shipped with no bundle.
Yes,
if you'll recall.
And that was a time when bundles were starting to fall off.
But when I bought mine, it came with the sports bundle. And the sports bundle was NFL 2K and NBA 2K. This was a tremendous value.
It's a good bundle if you're into games.
If you're into
sports
games,
yeah.
But both those games were excellent. I thought they were really good games. Now we all know about the other big deal in the room, and that is the original Game Boy, which
is the best.
Which shipped with Tetris. Now it's hard to fight that.
Yeah.
Why do you think Tetris was so successful in the Game Boy? Like, why was that the ultimate pack-in in Europe?
Because Tetris is a game you can pick up and play for 15 minutes and be done with and happy that you've played it and had fun doing it. Or you can sit in the dark somewhere and play it for 17 hours and be just as happy.
It really is the ultimate portable game, too.
Yes.
I mean, it really is. I mean, you talk about stumbling backwards into a game. That was Tetris, the ultimate travel game. I mean, it really never got any better than that. So I want to talk about the original Genesis / Mega Drive. Now, I'm assuming this is worldwide, but it might not be. Do you remember what the original pack-in was for the Genesis? Let's test your mic.
I would assume it was a Sonic title. No, that would have been before that.
Yes.
Was it like Altered Beast?
It was Altered Beast.
Yeah.
Now, Altered Beast gets a lot of hate. The arcade game.
Oh, gosh.
Now, the Amiga game, as Boat famously points out, because at one point I said, I remember it being pretty good. It's hideous. Hideous game.
Well, yeah, it has a lot of bad
No, the Amiga version is hideous. But the Genesis / Mega Drive version, a pretty competent port, I thought. Now,
it's okay.
Was it as good as, say, Golden Axe? No. But the arcade game
it's a
wasn't
different
as
game.
Good. You know, my son and me have beat Altered Beast literally hundreds of times. Well, he loves that game.
It's a fun game because it has two different ways of playing. You know, when you're the humans, you fight as one way, and when you're the beast, you fight a completely different way.
Right. So let's talk about the Intellivision, Brent. Now, I distinctly remember this. For years and years, the Intellivision pack-ins, and I've heard that this is considered one of the worst pack-ins, but I'm going to disagree with that. I'll tell you what in a minute. The Intellivision was packed in with Las Vegas poker and blackjack. All right, now, it cannot be understated how popular card games and casino-style games were. And to be able to play them visually on your screen was a big deal. Those games are totally fine. In fact, I would dare say they're really fun.
They are.
The dealer, it makes those weird noises. You can see them. You know, the cards are easy to see.
Here's the problem.
Yeah.
You're setting your console. Your pack-in my opinion, determines your audience.
Yeah.
And when you have a pack-in like that, you're saying we're an adult toy. We're not for your kids.
Well, maybe that's what they were going for at the time.
But their later launches didn't follow up on that.
I will say the other pack-in they released with on down the line in '83, Astro Smash, which is probably
that's
a better.
Huge, that's
Astro
a huge
Smash
different game.
What is the answer to the question? What happens if you cross asteroids and Space Invaders? You get Astro Smash.
Astro Smash is fun.
That's one of their top games. But I think Las Vegas Poker Blackjack are fun games. I've played those.
I think they're fun too. But I think when you do that, you're setting yourself up. When you're a kid, when you're a parent, buying something for your 8 or 9 year old, and you see their pack-in is gambling, that's going to turn a lot to off.
Listen, nobody likes a good gamble as much as me and my kids. That's what we like to do. So now let's talk another Atari and their litany of stupidity. They got this shiny new Jaguar, and I will say to their credit, they at least tried to do something that was going to be, futuristic. And they packed in Cybermorph. Now, I don't know if you've played Cybermorph.
I'm trying to think about. I can't remember the game.
Where did you learn to fly? You get used to hearing that 1,000 times. It's sort of this 3D space planet-based shooting game.
Oh yeah, I just looked it up here.
It is not attractive, and it's not. I mean, and there are people that are cheerleading for this game, but I'm not one of them. So let's move down the line a little bit. Now, let's talk about the NES. Okay, now the NES is a little bit special.
Second best pack-in of all
because
time.
they had multiple pack-ins, and so if you've got the robot with your system, you were treated to Gyromite and Duck Hunt.
Not a good pack-in.
Gyromite was the game you played with the robot. The robot's name was what?
Rob.
Rob the robot. Yes. I should guess that, eh? And then you also had the NESs that came with Super Mario Brothers. Yep. That's a tremendous pack-in. I've mentioned this on Amigos, but the very first time I ever saw a Nintendo was at a Kmart in Canal City, right around Christmas time, and it was this huge horde of people around this item. And I looked over to see what it was. It was some guy playing Super Mario. And I remember watching him play the game and watching him do all this stuff. And I thought to myself, this is a game that people will go back and play later. And I never had that thought. Basically, my mind, once a game got rolled, it was pretty much done. This game was I was like, holy smokes. And of course, it went on to be a huge seller. And I would be remiss without mentioning the NES Power Set, which is the one you had, that came with Super Mario, Duck Hunt, and World Class Track Meet.
Yeah.
I hate that game.
Yeah.
And its stupid pad that you play it on.
The Mario and Duck Hunt pack-in, one of the best pack-ins of all time as well.
Yeah, you can't get wrong with that one.
Holy cow.
Now let's move up the line here a bit and talk about the Odyssey 2. It was a system that we both love.
Yes.
I both have. Our original set's just inches from my knee here. Its original pack-in was a 3-game pack-in cartridge. This was also widely regarded as one of the worst pack-ins of all time. This came with Speedway, Spin Out, and Crypto Logic.
Yeah.
Now, Crypto Logic was sort of a game that lets you use the keyboard to try to guess these words.
Yeah.
It was super duper simple.
Yeah, it was.
Speedway and Spin Out, I believe Speedway was the overhead racing title in the vein of, a lot of Atari's big overhead title.
Like Sprint, yeah.
It's like Sprint. It was
and it was the best of those 3 games.
I think it was 2-player, and I think it was 2-player only.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe the third game, Spin Out, was a behind the car. It was an over the top scrolling gimmick where you just dodge cars. They were simple games. The Odyssey 2 was sort of a simple console, though, and so.
Although, didn't the Odyssey 2 later come with Pickaxe Pete as a back-end?
I don't have it listed here, and I don't remember that. I wouldn't, because that was one of their big sellers. So, I thought this was interesting. What do you think the Sega CD launched with? Now, it launched with several different things.
Sewer Shark, didn't it?
That was the second version, did launch with Sewer Shark. You had a version that launched with Sewer Shark, a version that launched with Tomcat Alley. And at launch, it launched with the Sega Classics 4-in-1 CD, which consisted of 4 Sega Classics you play on your thing. That's not a bad pack-in. You get to use the Sega CD for what it's meant for,
right?
Which is kind of cool. Now, while we're on the subject of Sega, let's look at the Master System pack-in. A lot of people don't realize the Master System had a built-in game. Did you know that? It was called Snail Maze. And it was a very simple little hidden maze game that you could play. The original system that I saw came with, and this was the one that came with the gun. It came with Hang On and Safari Hunt. Safari Hunt, very simple light gun game, but Hang On was a pretty good version of that. Now I've got a setting just inches from me here, a Master System 2. Master System 2 had a built-in game, which was Alex Kidd in Miracle World. That's a pretty good game to be built in.
Yeah, it's a huge game.
But if you were in Europe and Brazil, the Master System 2 pack-in game was the Master System version of Sonic the Hedgehog.
That's pretty huge,
not bad.
too.
That's not bad. So, let's look at Nintendo, Super Nintendo here. The pack-in game varied. Now, a lot of these didn't have a pack-in. I remember that.
Super Nintendo launched.
But eventually...
Super Mario World
was
the big one.
It wasn't packed in, though. Well, that was a separate game at launch. Well, then you had to go buy that one. I don't remember if it was packed in or not. According to this, it wasn't. There was a Killer Instinct pack. There was a Donkey Kong Country pack. There was a Street Fighter 2 pack. You see what they're doing here.
And those are all
Let's take our
down
best
the
game that has sold a ton and put that in there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Vectrix for a moment. The Vectrix has a built-in game called Mindstorm, which is an Asteroids clone, a very good one. It had one problem, though. It was flawed. It would glitch out if you got to a certain level.
Yep.
So they ended up having to release a cartridge called Mindstorm 2, which would repair the damage.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
It
was a score thing, wasn't it? No, it was a level. Reach a certain level, yeah.
So let's talk TurboGrafx real quick. This was another really fun system, but no one knows the pack-in for this. But of course, I've got it. Keith Courage and Alpha Zones. Not a great pack-in. I never liked Keith Courage. You ever played that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it wasn't great. I want to touch on one more here, and that is Wii. The Wii. A lot of people make fun of the Wii now.
Probably the third best pack-in of all time.
A lot of people hated the Wii. Oh, the Wii, the game machine that your grandparents played. Screw you. The Wii was an awesome machine that I had more fun than anyone should with, and the pack-in was off the charts. It was well up in the top upper 3 or 4, and that was Wii Sports.
Because it sold consoles.
Wii Sports, was it a tech demo of sorts? Absolutely. Were the sports in it deep? Absolutely not. Were they fun? Yes, sirree, Bob, they were. And when Wii Sports Resort came out, it was even better. And it was awesome. It had the Wii motion sensor in it. Great title.
I mean, the Wii Sports sold consoles. And when you have a pack-in game, your pack-in game does one of two things. you are either using your pack-in game to sell consoles, or you're using your pack-in game to sell the game.
That's right.
So when you look at that, did Wii Sports sell consoles? It absolutely sold consoles.
Yeah,
100%.
In fact, it may have been too successful because often you hear the tale of people buying a Wii, getting Wii Sports, and never buying. Our mom
else.
Is a perfect example of this. She never bought another game.
Yep.
So,
a couple lookups if you've got them there. Do you have the Lynx, the Atari Lynx?
I believe I do. I believe
that the pack-in for that was a puzzle game, but I cannot recall for sure.
Let me see what I've got here. You put me on the spot here.
It's true, I did.
I believe the pack-in for that was Columns, wasn't it? No, that was Sega.
No, that's Sega's.
That was Sega. No, I don't have the Lynx on here. And again, some of these did not come with a pack-in game, and the Lynx is not mentioned amongst the ones I've got listed here. Was that from the chat? Now the Game Gear shipped with Columns, and in later versions would ship with Sonic the Hedgehog 1. By the way, the Sonic franchise has been turned out many times to be pack-in games. Sega was like, well, this sells, so let's go with that. Yeah, I'm not even sure that the Lynx even had a pack-in, to be honest with you. It sounds like something dumb that Atari would do by launching that system with that pack-in.
Or maybe you got a pack-in later down the line, which is often the case.
All right, let's move along to our double main event tonight, and I will start the show. I've got to get a visual aid here as I reach into the floor here, because this is sort of appropriate for this. I wanted to do look at that. For you at home. I wanted to do something in the terms of the pack-in that I wasn't real familiar with, right? And I pondered many a pack-in this week. I was like, man, what can I do? And I thought, I wonder what the Atari 5200 came packed with. Well, that is the basis of what I submit to you now. So, the system I'm looking at is the Atari 5200, and the Atari 5200 was the successor to the Atari 2600, the Atari VCS, or whatever you want to call it, which was the brilliantly selling, well-supported Atari console that sort of launched home consoles for the rest of time. The Atari 2600 was such a massive seller and had so much success that you knew the sequel to it was going to be bigger than curly fries. It was going to be a really big deal.
Size-wise, I suppose it was.
Yeah, that's true. So the 5200 launched right around 82. Which is funny, you don't think it would be in that early, do you? I mean, it seems like the Atari 27 was around forever.
Yeah.
I know that's young for you.
No, it was.
So we're going to flash back just for a moment to the original version of this game. First of all, the game in question here, and I've got it right here, stuck in the old cartridge slot, Super Breakout, the Atari 5200. Now, Super Breakout was based on the arcade game Super Breakout, which came out in September of '78.
Yeah.
Okay.
Way back.
Absolutely. And designed by the legendary Atari coin-op designer, Ed Rotberg. Now, Ed was a good hand. And if you've ever played Breakout, the original Breakout, a very simple game, a very simple concept, but it was fun. You've got a paddle at the bottom of the screen. You bat a ball into some bricks at the top of the screen. They go away. And then you move on until they're all gone. And you've got to keep the ball rolling. In the arcade, these were the natural progression out of Pong. If you'll recall, Pong, the
single-player Pong, yeah.
Right, effectively, yeah. Well, I mean, with some skill involved. But Pong, of course, was a two-player game. And you would bat a ball back and forth between another guy with a paddle. Pretty simple. I mean, again, this is the video game that pretty much launched arcades. So it's no surprise that you would get a sequel, which was Breakout, and that would get a sequel, which was Super Breakout. Now, again, Super Breakout, one thing that you've got to remember in the arcade, these games were black and white with color overlays, and Super Breakout and Breakout, all these things. And the color overlays worked real well, didn't they, Brent?
I mean, for what the game was.
But, I mean, it looked like there was color. Or, you know what I'm saying? I always thought they did a pretty decent job.
I mean, for me, these kind of color overlays were really generic. I don't think they offered. I don't think they. I mean, they made the game colorful, which I guess is what the whole point of it was.
Yeah.
But this wasn't like a Space Invader deal or some of the old gun games where it gave the game depth or anything like this. This was just simple plastic on the screen.
That's right.
Plastic wrap.
So after Super Breakout did very well, of course, here comes Atari with their fledgling 2600, and they needed some games for the sucker, and so it was natural to pour over Super Breakout for the 2600. If you've ever played Super Breakout, it's a very competent port. It supports all the weird game modes. There are multiple game modes in Breakout. You've got double, which gives you 2 paddles at the bottom.
Yeah.
Which I know this sounds remedial, but it's true. There's another one where the ball is trapped in some bricks, and you break bricks out, and eventually that ball will come out, and you got couple balls.
Yeah.
And then you've got another version. It's sort of like the natural answer to what happens if Breakout and Space Invaders had a kid. The blocks are coming towards you, and you have to knock them out before they get to you. It's called progressive mode, all of which are fun. And I thought I found this on Wiki. I thought it was an amusing side note. So Rothberg developed Super Breakout because he heard that Atari founder Nolan Bushnell wanted Breakout updated. He just heard him talking about it. He's like, I'll do it. They just went and did it. And that's the way they did it back in those days. So Super Breakout was released on the 2600 the same year as the arcade game, 1978. What do you think about that? That's a good turnover time. Of course, their version was in color. And then in 79, here it comes out for the Atari 8-bit computer line. All right, so they weren't screwing around. So you're thinking to yourself, this is all well and good, but why is this an interesting topic for conversation? Well, because clearly Super Breakout is not what I would call an interesting topic. It's just a boring sort of game. It's fun, don't get me wrong, but there's not a whole lot to talk about. What makes it interesting is the mindset of this game. And because if you'll recall, when you play this in the arcade, Brent, what instrument of control would you normally use?
Paddle.
That's right. A little knob.
Spinner.
All right. So when they made a 2600 version of this, right, what do you think you would use on the 2600 to play this game?
On the 2600?
Yeah.
Paddle.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because the 2600 had a robust and popular line of paddles.
Yes, they were good.
And they were very good. I used some. I've still got several.
Yeah, I mean they were nice and accurate,
and one plug-in you get 2 paddles.
Yeah, good acceleration.
And you're great for a game like you get your 4 players Warlord. That's one of the best Atari games ever made. And you agree with me on that. I know. So if you're going to release this on the Atari 8-bit line of computers, what control method would you use on there?
You would think paddle.
That's right, because the Atari 8-bit line of computers has the exact same joystick port, which, and by the way, I don't think there's any doubt that what's the most renowned, oft-used controller port in history?
The old
Atari. Yeah, that's right. The old Atari joystick port.
9-pin, 8-pin.
So here comes the shiny new. Look at the size of this thing for you looking at home. A monstrous, epic. This is the Star Destroyer from the beginning of Star Wars.
Yes.
It hones into view. So they thought to themselves, what do we want to show off the power and increased abilities of an Atari 5200? We need a game that breaks all the molds. We need something fresh. We need Super Breakout. That's what they came up with. So you're probably asking yourself, why would they put that in here? Well, no one knows, to be completely honest with you. And everyone thought it was a curious choice. Let's talk about how this looks. If you've played the Atari 2600 version of Breakout, you've almost certainly played the Atari 5200. It's almost
really
exactly the same. Now,
a little bit higher.
There's a little. The ball is a little smoother, but I mean, graphically, it's almost indistinguishable, isn't it, Brent? They did not reinvent the wheel.
No.
And if you played the Atari computer versions, it's basically the same game. Now, is there a lot of room to expand what can be done in Super Breakout. There sort of is. I mean, clearly stuff like Arkanoid came around, and it revolutionized what you do. But if you're just porting Super Breakout, you effectively that's what you get. So the first thing they did was pack in a game that looked almost identical to the older, more popular system.
Yeah.
Now, how do you top that in sheer stupidity? Allow me to pop the top. Now, the 5200 is a secret compartment back here. Let me just open this up. And inside this compartment, we've got here the 5200 controller.
The horrible controller.
Now, if you're not familiar with these controllers, this one is almost certainly broken because I've touched it.
Yeah.
These shipped broken, and I'll hold this up here. This is a 5200 controller. It's got the phone touchpad at the bottom. It's got the buttons on the side, and it's got this analog joystick here.
Yep.
Now,
when you look at it, you think, man, that probably rotates to double as a paddle.
No, sir.
No, it does not.
It does rotate. It just doesn't do anything. So, one thing I want to point out here is, if you look at the port on this, now, what did you just say about the 2600 port? The all-time most popular, most used port.
Oh, yes. Used for a long time in other systems.
So, if you're Atari and you've got all these peripherals and joysticks as far as the eye can see, what do? Well, you change that sucker, of course. And so they went from that proper joystick port to something with like about 30 million pins. It's wide, it's wacky, and it's not compatible with the old joystick.
Well, to be fair though, the two joysticks aren't compatible. They have one is digital, one is analog.
That's true.
One has but
trust me when I tell you
15 inputs. The other one has 4.
If you think about this,
5.
There are like the ColecoVision joystick. It uses the same port. For example, and it's got the exact same phone thing. Plus, analog works because they've got paddles. On
right, but you're putting it all on. It's different when you put it all on one thing.
I guarantee you they can do it. So here's your wacky port. Now, when you load up Super Breakout for the first time, you want to get out the old paddle, right? Well, guess what? There was no paddle released for the Atari 5200. So you sat in your room on launch day with your joystick, and you tried to play Super Breakout. Brett, how does that usually go?
Well, it is an analog stick.
It is an analog stick.
So that helps tremendously, but it's still crap.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, that stick overall was garbage. It was just a horrible.
It doesn't do that well, and you'll notice that most of the machines this got released for. It's funny looking over the list here that for Super Breakout. Of course, you had the 2600, the 8 bits, the 5200. And this got an ST release, and it also got a Game Boy release, which I thought was interesting. Did you know there was Super Breakout on the Game Boy? That seems like it'd be even harder to control. So yes, they launched Super Breakout with no paddle, and no paddle was ever made. I also should mention that Super Breakout could be played with the trackball. The trackball for the Atari 5200 is as big as the 5200. It's massive.
Huge, yeah.
I will say it is top quality. You can physically beat a bear down with this controller.
Yeah.
It is huge and heavy. But I mean, do you really want to pick this up to play this? So I love this quote here from David H. All of Creative Computing Video and Arcade Games. This is something I picked up on Wiki. We thought this a somewhat curious choice. Let's talk about the Super Breakout for the 5200. Since it hardly uses the high resolutions of the 5200 to its advantage. The screen, for example, has the same number of bricks as Super Breakout on the Atari VCS.
Yeah.
So, however, users of the VCS will like the much better representation of the alphanumerics. So what he's saying is you can see the score better. And right. So I'm going to put this up. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to nominate Super Breakout as the worst pack-in title, or amongst the worst pack-in titles of all time. You had a 4-year-old game that had been done just as well on two other systems, and it had been done better control-wise, and it was your launch title of a super system that went on to flounder and then flop.
Flop hard.
The 5200, one of the great failures in the history of video games.
Yes.
And it really, very few systems have came close to tanking like this. And it really,
I don't know about that.
This system did Atari no favors. It really did. Atari had the huge 2600 launch, and it seemed like after that it was just failure after failure, doesn't it, Brent?
Well, they did not grow with the times.
Yeah.
And where they did try to grow with the times, because I mean, some of their games that they published way down the line were great. I mean, they've got a lot of great names under their belt. But they're sort of they sort of remind me as the first Sega. They just could never get it right again.
Well, one thing that, and I guess Sega does this too. They had a lot of initial success that came out of the arcades.
Yes.
And they rode it all right into the dirt.
Right into the dirt.
All the way up to their last console. They were reviving these old titles and trying to reimagine them and whatnot. You've got to let go of Pole Position 2 and some of these other games and move on. And the thing is, Atari had a lot of good arcade properties that never got a proper port.
You're right.
And so
they could have been the Neo Geo and probably survived.
Well, Atari is a sad, it's a sad tale of just people running it that didn't know what they were doing. I think there at the end. Of course, Nolan was out. So anyway,
just as a game on its own, what did you feel about Super Breakout?
I thought it was minimal. See, one thing about the Atari that I always liked is that you would get a lot of game options. Like we were talking about Asteroids earlier. You're talking like there'd be like 70 game options.
Yeah.
Another one, Space Invaders. I'll tell you, the home version of Space Invaders, the original, was an awesome game. It had so many options.
Yeah. I mean, it helps. It helps. It goes a long way.
You could have given yourself more options in this, and they didn't. It's plain Jane Breakout without a paddle. And I'd rather play Breakout with a paddle. Yeah. So that's pretty much how
I'd rather play Breakout with some rocks thrown at windows because I hate Breakout.
Yeah. Also, I should mention, speaking of variations, on the Atari 2600 version of Super Breakout, you get 12 variations. On the 5200, you get 4. So you get less variations. I mean, does that make any sense to anybody? It doesn't.
What's the fourth one?
I can't tell you. I looked up some reviews on this. Atari Mania, which is
I only could find 3.
Is my go-to when it comes to scoring. 6.8 out of 10.
Give me a break.
I think that's a D. It's not. I mean, I'd say D is about right.
6.8 out of 10.
That's a 68%. That's not that good.
No.
Yeah, 6.8 out of 10. Do I have to describe this to you?
But the thing is, that's way too high.
You don't think this thing's? I'm talking a game, not a pack-in.
No, this is like a 2.
Wow.
This is like a 2.
I mean, it's a functional, competent game. It's not that bad.
No, it's first of all, it doesn't do even Breakout justice. It's the ball collision is garbage.
It's no. I thought it was okay.
You pass through bricks and don't destroy them all the time.
Well, that does happen. Atari HQ, they weren't so kind. They give this a 4 out of 10.
That's closer.
Video Game Critic gave it a C+, and Retro Game Review 6 out of 10. I don't think it's as bad as Brent does, but I mean, as a packet, it's hideous, and as getting yourself a new system, it's the dirt worst. eBay, you can get these things for a couple bucks all day long, and if you want a boxed version, they did release a boxed version, $10. You can get one all day long.
Well, while you look up our user review for that, I want to complain a little bit more about Breakout.
Okay.
It is not a good move on, people. If you can at least bring it into the Arkanoid type of game, stop making Breakouts, because they still do it today.
Graham disagrees wholeheartedly with your assessment. Super Breakout Review. This is from our good buddy Graham W. Vepke. We should get a little picture of him to put up on the screen whenever we talk about this.
We need to.
This game adds new variations to the original Breakout, but maintains the same goal of destroying all the bricks using your ball and bat. Progressive mode reminds me of how Space Invaders advanced on the screen, I agree. Double Breakout adds an extra ball. And Cavity, which actually I think it adds an extra paddle. And Cavity mode has the balls trapped within bricks, which are free when surrounding bricks are broken.
Yeah.
This is from a time when games were approachable to everyone of all ages and were simple enough to control with the paddle controller, and were also challenging. A true gameplay gem, 8 out of 10. However, of course, no paddle.
Yeah.
So there you go. I'm sure Graham emulated this.
I obviously don't agree. I don't like Breakout as a game, period. Even the Arkanoid variations I don't like. I find the game repetitive and boring.
Well, maybe it's a generational thing. 'Cause I grew up
It could
playing
be,
it.
man.
And I
Although, I mean, I respect and understand and enjoy the appeal of Pong.
before we move on, as this little sidebar, the Atari 5200 is a large, heavy, unpopular system that has a I don't think there's that big of a home collection community for it. It's one of those systems that it's so difficult to hook up and stuff. And one of these days we'll get into it because we never have covered a 5200, so it's on the list. It's definitely on the list. So Brent, pack-in games. Clearly I showed a dud. What do you got?
Holy moly, did I ever go the other direction? I went with Sega Saturns, not even close to launch pack-in, but down the line to try to boost sales, the triple pack-in of Daytona USA, Virtua Cop, and Virtual Fighter 2, all bundled together into one super pack-in. Holy cow. Holy cow, what a combination. Real quick, I want to touch on these individually, then I want to talk about what this did to the market at the time. Let's start with Daytona USA. Some of the most memorable music of all time. I mean, it's stupid. Everything.
Oh, yeah.
Gameover. Game over. That whole bit, great. The game itself in the arcade, one of my favorite racers of all time.
It was a real mind blower when it was
I would
released.
challenge anyone on the advanced track. My skills have way since diminished. I used to play this
Here comes the disclaimer.
on a weekly basis during our trips to the arcades. Holy cow. So much fun getting these linked up in an arcade setting, 8 wide. We just play and play and play. The translation of this to the Sega Saturn, unfortunately, was rushed out the door. And while it is still fun, because the speed, it still has good speed, which is very, very important for a racing game. And the sound is perfect. All the songs are there. All that stuff is wonderful, perfect. The draw distance on this is really bad. The pop-in is really bad. And I think if they would have spent more time with it, they could have gotten it there. I mean, the Sega is powerful enough that it could have gotten, or the Saturn is powerful enough, it could have got those draw distance where they weren't so bad.
Well, they went back and they re-released this.
Way down the line.
And it was way better.
Yeah.
And it was way better.
Unfortunately, we're not reviewing that.
Yeah.
We're reviewing the first
what
version.
that tells me is what you said is definitely true. They wanted to get this thing out the door quick. Listen, this is a big. They dropped an egg on this one. I'm with Brent. In the arcade, this was a top shelf grade A triple A title.
Yes.
When I saw this, I was like, "Holy smoly!" And I'm not a big racing guy. But I had to hop in and give me some of that. The music was cheesy, fun, in the true Sega tradition. But the game on the Saturn just was there was a dud, dud. I mean, if you're used
it wasn't that
well, I
bad.
mean, listen, could you play it and say, I'm playing it? Yes. But, I mean, it was disappointing. I mean, let's go that way. Listen, it's not the first time it happened. The original Virtual Fighter was a dud, too. And they re-released that to fix it. These guys were trying to get stuff out the door like that, and they were doing a poor job.
Here's the thing. And you're right. It was under the quality it should have been. But, excuse me, it was still something you could play and enjoy. You should have been able to enjoy it more. It should have been a runaway perfect hit, and it wasn't.
I was disappointed in this game. I remember the first time I played it, I was like, man. Of course, this was way after the fact.
The pop-ins were really bad.
Yeah.
I
didn't think the control was that great. I just didn't think it was that. I thought it was sort of poor.
Here's the thing. You could play this with a steering wheel.
Uh-huh.
And it made it a lot better. Because I've played this on a Saturn with a steering wheel.
I will say that is one of the problems with these sorts of games, even the newer versions, that the as good as the Saturn controller was, and of course
it was good. I
love the 6-button Saturn controller.
Yeah, well, that's what you owe. Yeah,
but it is digital, and so when you come from the arcade, you're used to that silky smooth control, and you get there, and it is a much more difficult game at home.
Sure, absolutely. So let's move on and look to the second of this trinity, Virtual Cop. Virtual Cop also released in the arcade. Tremendous game in the arcade. The concept of having the screen kind of focus in on where you're shooting at, and having the circles that are around the guys go from green to yellow to red when they're about ready to shoot, so you know who you need to shoot first. Revolutionary. Being able to shoot the guys in the leg and they react differently than if you shoot them in the shoulder or the head. All that was tremendous.
Or the groin.
Yeah.
That's where you shoot at.
This game came to the home console port much better translation than Daytona. There were no pop-ins. All the stages were there. Well, of course they were for Daytona as well.
Are you sure that all the stages are there?
Yeah.
It seemed to me.
It's a short game.
It seemed to me that the home version of this. I'm going to disagree with you on this one too. I thought it was a little. It just seemed more cut down. I was not a big fan of this in the arcade.
No, this was pretty good.
And so when this came to the Saturn, I was not. I like the second one better.
It's a better game.
I never liked this game that much, and I didn't think the Sega Saturn was any great shakes.
I thought it was fine. You know, I thought the biggest problem is you don't get a gun.
Well, you can get the gun,
right? But you're playing this with a controller out of the box.
Oh, it didn't come with a gun?
No.
That's stunning. Why would you send a gun game home without the gun being packed in?
But you can play this with a controller.
You're kidding me. This did not come with a gun packed in?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm stunned by that. I'm stunned that they would send. That's idiotic if they did that. You better double check on that when you get a chance. Cause I'd bet my $100 that they came with a freaking gun.
No.
Okay, I'm surprised. I mean, I played the second one on the PC a lot with the mouse. But I mean, a gun game with the mouse blows, and a gun game with a digital controller also blows. So that right there is an epic fail. That's almost as stupid as the 5200 version that came with no paddle support.
But this you could play 2 players. If you had 2 guns, you could play it with 2 guns.
Have you played any Saturn games?
You know what? I don't know if that's totally true. I think it is true though. I'm pretty sure you could play those 2 guns.
Have you ever played any Saturn games with a gun? Did you? Because you didn't have a gun, did you?
I did not own a gun, but I had friends that did own the gun.
Yeah.
And this is something we did play with the gun, but he only had 1 gun, not 2.
I went to a guy's house to pick up. Well, I can't remember what I was there getting. I think it might have been when I was getting the one of our little machines here, and he had a Saturn and he had 2 guns, and we actually played a couple games while we were just there talking. And I actually got to play this with the gun because I don't have a Saturn gun.
Right.
I need to get one. It was okay. You
know? I think the gun for the Saturn is acceptable.
It's okay.
But the
Dreamcast guns were way better.
The like I said, all the stages were there. You can play through the game. The biggest problem for me for Virtual Cop is the game is short.
It is.
And the way they try to arcade it up is they only give you 5 coins to continue with. So it was something that you couldn't play it the first time. You couldn't beat it the first time you sat down because you'd run out of continues. But I always enjoyed Virtual Cop. I think Virtual Cop has a lot of nuances with where you shoot people, they react differently. I've always liked that in games, and it's something it's not done even to this day.
Yeah, today it's done.
Not to the same amount though. I mean, the absolute peak was GoldenEye for the Nintendo 64.
I think I prefer the digitized shooting guy. I like, and there are plenty of the Dreamcast
digitized shooting.
You know, like a lethal enforcer and stuff like that. I like those, or like Area 51.
I mean, they both have their places, but those just are really cheesy.
Those are more fun.
So you've got your driving game and you got your shooting game.
Yeah, you're really off to a good start on these.
So your third pack in is Virtua Fighter 2, your fighting game.
Mm-hmm.
And this was an absolute masterpiece on the Saturn. It looked good. It ran well. All the characters were there. All the moves were there. The frame rate was not arcade perfect, but it was really close. This was at a time when Virtua Fighter was... The big boost was already gone because this was pretty far down the line. but it was still a big enough title to get people interested. And this is definitely the crown jewel of the pack-in trinity here, because it played great. Now I know you're a big Virtual Fighter fan,
Absolutely.
and I would say Virtual Fighter 2 probably one of the best. What was your opinion on it?
First of all, this game saved this pack-in, because the other two games are not even close to the quality of this. I think the guys over at Sega, when they did the first Virtual Fighter for the Saturn, were embarrassed because it didn't turn out very well, and so they went and did Remix, which I've got Remix, and Remix is a much better version. And so when they were going to do Virtual Fighter 2, they weren't going to screw around. You got to remember, Virtual Fighter, we touched this a couple weeks ago, it's one of the most popular games in the history of Japan.
Yes.
So when you go out there and stick out a dud, you've screwed up big time, yo, because that's a big deal. And so Virtual Fighter 2, they got it right. Listen, Virtual Fighter 2, in my opinion, the best of the Virtual Fighter series. It's a lot like Samurai Showdown 2, for whatever reason, or Mortal Kombat 2. They usually they perfect that in the second one.
And they go too far in the third.
Street Fighter 2. But this one, they added the young jerk and the old drunk guy, my personal favorite. I can relate to him. And you've got the drunken master out there. You've got all the traveling raft backgrounds and all the
yes.
It all looks beautiful. They did a good job with the sound effects. I've got no problem. Plus, this is one game where this is of the three games. This is the one that you control with the joystick with your gamepad, and it feels totally fine. You don't have any trouble with it. It works fine. I think the Virtual Fighter 2 only had 3 buttons. It was a 3-button setup, so you had no problems there. Punch, kick, and block.
Yep.
And it was a great game, great fighting game. You could have a lot of fun with it. It was visually appealing. One thing that Virtual Fighter 2 did was it took the bland, sort of blocky original, and they smoothed it out.
They made it less blocky.
They made the backgrounds. I mean, if you think about the backgrounds in the first one, they are so plain. I mean, you've got that platform in the sky. It's not that big a deal. This has got all different great backgrounds. Yeah. It's beautiful. And it's got much better sound. Just everything about it was better. And the home version is spot on.
It is.
So
it's really good.
Of these 3 games, you really have a sort of a dud that they botched. One that's like somewhere in the middle where that's okay. And then you've got the crown jewel. And there's no doubt, you ask anybody, Virtual Fighter 2 is your crown jewel of this pack.
I will agree with that. Mm-hmm. Virtual Fighter 2... I was never a huge Virtual Fighter fan. I definitely dabbled more in the Street Fighter 2D realms. However, of the games, Virtual Fighter 2 was my favorite. Wolf was my guy. Mm-hmm. I loved playing him. I loved all the throws and the giant swings. This version was... I mean, it's not arcade perfect because the resolution's not there. But it's really close. Yeah. And it was something that could sell consoles.
This is one thing, you could sell with. So,
now, I have a question, Aaron.
Yeah, man.
This was, when Sega first launched the Saturn, do you know what their pack-in was?
Oh, God. The very first, it was probably a sampler disc or something. Did they actually have a pack-in?
It was nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. I think they launched with no pack-in.
I believe it came with the old... patented PlayStation
the
sampler.
Demo, those things don't count.
Well,
those
I'm just saying that's not a packet, but I thought it came with nothing. Yeah.
So,
because this is the time when that started happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they launched with nothing, and I mean, they sold Saturns because they had some launch games out there, and then they tried a few extra pack-ins, and they were like, "Man, we're getting killed. PlayStation's out there, Nintendo's out there. We're getting hammered. We need to do something right now." And that's when they put in this pack-in. What percentage do you think, 100%, 150%? What percentage do you think this boosted sales? Well, let's say in the first month.
Well, these were, and whether you liked them or not, they were all AAA titles for the Saturn. In the first month, I'd say sales went up 175%. Sales
increased 500% with this pack-in.
Yeah. Wait, going from nothing, and I was
no. They had stuff behind this before this pack-in made
Did the price change?
This was not with a price change, but
So you got the same thing you got before with a bunch of with
But
three.
no. But prices had changed since then. But this was a Christmas time pack-in where they really pushed it. They did a lot of advertisement behind it. And in the span of 2 weeks, they sold 400,000 units, which was an uptick of 500%. And going into the Christmas period, the whole Christmas period, they are thought to have sold 900,000 Saturns. And this was in a time when Saturn was not selling anything because of the PlayStation and Nintendo 64 presence.
You know, one thing you got to consider when you talk about those numbers, though, is how much revenue have you cost yourself by including these 3 AAA games?
Now,
because these games are probably going for $70 a pop.
I have an opinion on that.
All right, go ahead.
I think this is a very, very smart pack-in, and maybe this didn't happen, maybe it did. You've got a driving game, you've got a shooting game, you got a fighting game. Okay. First of all, you're hitting 3 big outside of sports, which they could have if they had added a sports game, which I guess driving sort of is, but not in my opinion.
It is.
You're covering a huge spectrum of people.
Yeah.
And even if you see this pack-in list and you think, man, 2 of those games are great, that's enough to get you going. But you've got a driving game, but you have no steering wheel. So I bet hardware steering wheel sold a lot during this time because you got the game for free. You don't mind dropping a few bucks getting a wheel.
100.
You get a shooting game with no gun. Well, you get the game for free. We'll just go out and buy some of the light guns. You get a fighting game with no fighting stick. Well, the fighting stick's right there. I'll just go ahead and pick them up. $50 for a fighting stick. I got the game for free. That seems like a steal.
Yeah.
I think that on top of trying to move systems with this, I think they tried to move hardware, and I think that makes it a brilliant pack-in. It did the job it was supposed to do. It got out there and sold systems, and this was the only pack-in I can ever recall because this was not sold in stores. It wasn't supposed to be. But I saw retailers selling this triple pack in packaging that said right on the front, not for resale, in stores in major places like KB Toys and EB Games, right up front. They had them for sale. So I always wondered about that.
Law.
But,
that is
that's something very interesting to me.
I have seen that happen in the past.
So I think, are the quality of all these things, are these the top 3 games of all time? No, not even close. But as a pack-in system to move consoles, to move hardware, to get people to talk about your brand, I think this was a brilliant move by Sega. A brilliant move that they had desperately needed because they were getting hammered. Now, did this save the Saturn? No. The Saturn was unsavable. It was just too hard to program for.
Yeah.
But I think this gave it
Also
at least
PlayStation.
a fighting chance. Also, this shifted this made the other people, the Sonys and Nintendos out there think, stop. They did not want Sega to come back. They did not want there to be a Saturn presence out there at all. They wanted to crush them down so they didn't have to compete with them. This made them shift what they were doing and at least consider these guys that they might be doing something in the marketplace. So I think
they were worried at that point.
Oh, I think they were.
I doubt they were worried.
They
laid that smack down.
But when you see this many consoles sold in this amount of time, all from just a pack-in, this big of an increase, that makes you turn your head.
It makes me think they're desperate, and that's what they were. They took. They took 3 AAA titles that were selling for $70 a piece, and they gave them away. That's the way I look at it.
I think you're crazy.
This pack-in smacks of desperation because they were getting it handed to them in the marketplace.
They were,
and they were like, "Listen, we've got to move units. We've got to increase our user base. We've got to sell as many Saturns as we can." Let's literally give them the treasure chest with the Saturn. That's what they did. They gave them the treasure chest.
If they would have thrown in sports titles, I maybe I would
They
agree
did.
with
It's
you.
it's called Daytona Racing.
Yeah.
That's a sport.
Could they have sold this version of Daytona?
At the time, no one knew how crummy it was. Something
Oh,
else,
yes,
if
they
you
did.
consider your peripheral strategy,
Right.
what is the percentage of people that bought this system that are going to go out and buy a peripheral? I bet the percentage is under 10%, way under.
Okay.
And so
how many people are going to buy that stuff without the pack-in
but how
games?
many people are going to
0%.
buy these games?
Yeah.
You lost all kinds of money.
No.
That's my point. And
No.
hey, proof's in the pudding. Enough
What are
said.
you talking about? What proof are you bringing to the table?
The Saturn sank like a stone is what I'm bringing.
But it didn't.
This wasn't a Lazarus situation. This wasn't a rising from the ashes like a phoenix. They melted in the volcano.
No, you're completely wrong, and you have no numbers to prove it.
What do you
I have
mean?
numbers to prove that this boosted sales significantly.
Of course it did. Of course it would boost sales. You gave away 3 AAA titles. But overall, how much money did you lose giving away 3 AAA titles with your system? Yes,
None.
you did. You lost all the profit you would have gotten from those titles.
No. It would have been different if the only way to get these titles were through this bundle, which that's not the case. Everyone who already had a system was still buying your Virtua Fighter 2s and probably your Virtual Cops. Maybe not so much Daytonas because it was crap. But the downfall they had were people were selling the triple packs when they weren't supposed to.
That's not
that
the
probably
downfall.
hurt them a little bit.
Okay, I will say one more thing on it. We'll put it to bed. I bought my Dreamcast with that awesome bundle. All right, I got it for a song. Okay, because J.C. Penney's was begging people to buy it.
Right.
All right. Why? Why did I buy one? Because I had no intention. The price got so low, and Sega was so desperate to move units that they packed in 2 expensive new titles, and then they sold the system for a song. That's why I bought it. That doesn't mean that the things. Sure, their numbers went up. They went way up. But by that time, they were screwed. That's the same thing that happened with the Saturn, in my opinion. Did you get an eBay on this thing?
You're so wrong on this.
Yeah, it's your opinion.
Yes, you can find the triple pack out there in the wild
right.
for about a tenner.
Oh, a tenner? That's not too bad.
And if you want all the packaging and the stuff that goes with it, you're looking for about $20.
All right, our good buddy, the Vebke, Graham W. Vebke, he had a look at this. Let's see what Graham says. Saturn pack-in review. Wow, Daytona USA is so rushed and just totally missed the mark. Which still makes me sad because it's an incredible arcade game. The Saturn version, despite all the hype and glitchy, doesn't control well and has very poor frame rates, all true. Virtual Cop looks amazing, but is another rushed game missing the mark. It's far too simple compared to the arcade version, and you can complete this game in less than 30 minutes, but at least it does have a 2-player mode for to extend the fun a bit. Thank God for Virtua Fighter 2. It's the only title that salvages this pack, and being honest, it might have been better if Sega launched a console with this game and Panzer Dragoon. Virtua Fighter 2 is a decent, but sadly is not the premium fighter on the Saturn. Waku Waku 7 or Fighters Mega Mix takes this. I'm going to disagree with you there, Graham. The score for the entire pack is 5.5 out of 10. Bam. Graham, I agree with you 110%, yo. Except for the Waku Waku part, although that is a wacky.
Waku Waku 7 is a great game.
It's wacky, that's for sure.
It's a great game.
So,
he's crazy.
as we bid a fondue to pack-in games, let's pack up the wheel. Here we go.
All right.
Ding, 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 ding. Now, Brent, this week, I took the liberty in this case, and since we had not done it, I have stuck the Atari 5200 on the wheel of fun here. So,
All
Brent,
right.
you'll do the honors to just give this thing a good hard whirl here. Any preferences this week? There is some wacky stuff on the wheel.
It's so much craziness. I'm afraid of all of it.
And we almost got the Atari, but we ended up with
Nintendo 64.
holy smokes!
Oh yeah, okay.
How have we never ever covered that on the show? I can't believe it. So we'll be playing selections from the Nintendo 64. Now, Brent, you were a Nintendo 64 guy, weren't you? A disciple of the unit.
Yes.
So you have a couple games in mind.
I know exactly what I'm playing.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't have any idea. Before we go, we received ARG mail this week.
We love mail.
We love mail. In fact, here's the package. And this is from our good friend Steve Rasmussen, which I believe it was in the chat. He may still be here. I love this handwritten note. Hope yous guys can find a use for this stuff. Love your shows, Steve R. And there it is. Put it on Still Store, Cambot. There it is. I like how he composed the word use. That's a word you don't see that much outside of monster movies. So, Steve was very kind. In fact, he sent a little bit of everything here. I'm gonna give these to the boat. He'll be happy with these. A couple ZX Spectrum tapes here. Now look at these. You've got Gobble Man. My family got a big hearty laugh when I looked at these and trying to guess what they were. And you also got Horace and the Spiders. I'll be sending those boats away. He'll be very excited for that. There you go, Brenny. He also, now this I thought was super nice of him, Brent. I've in case you're into it, I have been tinkering with the Atomic Pi.
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
And finally I've broken through and I'm having some success. I've been playing a lot of stuff on it. Hey, listen, don't believe the hype that the Atomic Pi is no good. It's great little system. And Steve made me a case for it. Here it is.
Look at that.
This is he printed this out. I've got the Pi in there right now. And it fits beautifully, doesn't it, Brent? Look at that. It's a lime green case. The funny thing is, I had this thing for quite a while. I had it in a pink Tupperware box. And so the name of my installation of Windows is Pink Box. So it's a pink box inside of a green box. So
man, that is beautiful.
Isn't that nice?
That is beautiful.
I do recommend these Atomic Pis. For $35, listen, you can run Windows 10 on it. If you're like me, you don't want to run with Linux on it, you want to put Windows in there, you're good to go. And lastly, and I thought this was great, he sent you some, for your art project, some tokens.
Oh, look at this.
There you go.
Yes.
So those are
and a swipe card.
Yes. And so those will be put to good use.
Oh, yes, definitely.
In your art project, no doubt. So thank you very much, Steve, for setting us up there.
Up, down, arcade.
Yeah. Steve is amongst several people that have been kind enough to send Brent some tokens for his little art project.
That is some good stuff.
Isn't that nice?
That is some good stuff.
Again, thanks a lot. And thank you for the case and everything. And Bo thanks you for his Spectrum goodies as well. So, I think that wraps up. You want to say hi to everybody in the chat, Brent, before we take it back?
We got a good crew today. We got Mohawk Mall, Duncan Styles.
The Dunk.
Jason's here, Dr. Blofin.
Dr. Blofin, I presume.
Pixels was here, Graham. Stefano.
I like your little
Socks.
figure out what you're doing song.
You like that?
When your brain sort of fizzles out and you just that little. It's like when you're watching TV back in the day, they put that "Please Stand By" song on.
It was a lot of chatter in chat today, which I always love.
How much of it was agreeing with me and bad mouthing you?
Socks McCoy, my favorite Star Trek cat. There
it is.
Retro Man Cave stopped by. Dario
Cueto from Lucha Underground.
I don't believe so, but
love
possibly.
that guy.
And we actually scroll up so far. I don't think I can get everyone.
Very good. So, thanks for joining us.
Tons of people. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us on the chat. Now, before we go, special announcement.
Free lunch.
Normally, the Brent, we come in here every Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've seldom missed, do we? We actually get here every week.
We've never missed.
It helps when it's at your house and right beside his. It's amazing how that goes a long ways to getting there. The boat is out of town next week. He's out. And so you have been tasked with the honor and privilege of sitting in with me for the next episode of Amigos to tape, which we will be taping next Sunday. We'll probably tape it after ARG about 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to tune in live.
I'll see if I'm available.
Oh, he'll be here, folks. If you want to tune in live at starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will knock out ARG Presents on the N64, and then we will seamlessly transition into Amigos, and we'll be doing an Amigos episode. That should be fun. We've done a couple. We've always had a good time, haven't we?
Yeah.
So, and Bode, of course, is on vacation at the Super Beach like a jerk. So he's left you with his dirty work. So we'll give that a whirl. So next week, if you want to join us for Double Trouble. So until then, my friend, I bid you all adieu. You're stupid.
Thank you.
So stupid. There you go. What'd you think of that? My babbling brook of a pal.
Oh yeah.
Don't get on me this week for stretching out the segment.
And I didn't even get to talk about the other thing I wanted to talk about.
How did they not ship? What were you going to talk about?
Huh?
What else were you going to talk about?
I was going to talk about the other packing games that Sega had, or that Saturn had.
You were fine. We went an hour. We went over an hour again.
We always go over an hour because we're big windbags.
No, you're a windbag. I was succinct and to the point this week, as I always am.
That's because your game sucked.
Listen, I would not throw stones at a glass house, my friend.
I'm not. I'm throwing them at your suck house.
You had a couple duds there, in my opinion. So,
ARG presents.
man, we cut the beginning off again. How does that keep happening? Why does it take so long to spin this sucker up? Oh, that sounds pretty good.
That is some good stuff.
Yeah, that sounds good. That looks good, man.
Are you still streaming, by the way?
Yeah, we're still streaming. Say hi to the nice people. Blow them kisses. So,
Blow them infected kisses.
we will be doing Amigos next week. And you acted like I thought you just assumed that's what you knew. That's what we did last time.
Okay. So when you first mentioned this to me,
Yeah.
I was under the impression that you were going to be gone, and I was replacing you over at John's.
Where can I go? I've got no money. I'm here. Oh, that reminds me of something. I got to tell you, it's such a secret surprise. I'll tell you off air. But no, I'll be here. We'll be recording right in this very arcade. So it'll be awesome. That makes it easier for you, too. We just put the green screen back up. And
Sure. Well, we got to wrap up.
All right.
I got things I got to do.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining us, all you fine folks. It's always very...
Thanks,
Graham.
Graham.
It's always lovely to have people come in and at least remotely care what's going on.
Yeah,
Hey,
we had a good crowd today.
The text adventure thing has almost hit our Mendoza line. So once it hits that, I call it a win. If you get 100 and some hits on it, I feel like it's okay. Boat said we had our most successful month ever last month. I'm sure part of that's going to be because of the massive success of my Atomic Pi 7-minute how to hook up the power video. I'll tell you something. You go in there and you're producing these shows and stuff, and then that's the kind of crap that takes off.
Well,
And I literally shot that because Boat yelled at me. He's like, "You need to do more of these tech videos. You're fooling with that Atomic Pi. Get in there." So I was like, "I'll just shoot some on my phone." And I look up and say, "Got 3,000 some hits."
Well,
it's moved up.
It goes outside of the bubble. When you go outside the bubble, you get more hits. I like the bubble, though.
Yeah,
it's comfy in here.
All right, well, we will move along. Goodbye, everybody, and we'll see you next week for Double Trouble.
See you guys.